This is gonna. Okay, so this is recording now. I don't have. The microphone's in my office. I need to plug it in, but I didn't. Okay, so um, how do I know what this guy's thinking? What's his action? Jumping his bicycle off a roof. That's a 3-story drop, by the way. So he's dropping 20-something feet onto that ramp. And you can, if you go back and actually look at the ramp, that's the first one. That's the favorite part of the whole video. Okay, sorry. He's not touching his brakes as he's going down, very much at all. Only to slow down for a couple jumps and slow down a little bit around one of the corners. So, can you assume he's afraid or not afraid? Not afraid. How do you can gather that very quickly? Then, when he does drop 3 stories, as opposed to like going, I almost died, his answer is kind of a Beavis and Butthead laugh. If you don't know what that is, watch old MTV. Anyway. And then don't watch it because it's awful. They just 2 guys to sit on the couch and smoke you all the time. Nothing wrong with it. It's a hobby. It's not a problem. So now, as you kind of look at trying to figure out what this class is, what is this class? What's the point of this class? Uh-oh. Well, what is psychology? You're here. You registered for it. It's on the schedule. What is psychology? 120. Okay, what is this? What do we do? Good try. Good thought process. Yeah. Thinking? Maybe. Okay, we call those mental processes. What was the title of the first chapter? That's the word I was looking for. Psychology is the study of the mind, yeah. Yeah, well, the first chapter is called Theory of Mind. So the psychology, we start with the theory of mind, which we'll go through an annoying amount of detail here in a few minutes. But psychology is the study of the mind. Theory of mind is a way of thinking about what the heck the word mind means. Mind is a very bizarre term. Mind comes from philosophy. Philosophy is the study of thought, thinking. Have philosophers really solved any problems in the world? No, you committed suicide and talked to your students about what it's like to die. I forget what that was. You drink lots of red wine and think about stuff and look at the servants working going, wow, there's poor, stupid people. That's what a lot of Greek philosophers did, sadly. But the Greek philosophy, the idea of the nature of the mind, is all about the nature of thought. But psychology is a study of the mind. How do I know what the guy jumping off the buildings on his bicycle is thinking? By the way he acts. So psychology studies the thought process, which is really important. And sadly, that's 2/3 of us. But then there's another part. Behavior, action. Good morning. Okay, and so trying to understand psychology, we have to study behavior. Study behaviors and mental processes. That is what the mind is in this class. Which is annoying because, can I know exactly what you're thinking? Why not? Not yet, anyway. Yeah. So, But I can read brain. So I can read brain. Some days in the class I will be drawing and writing all over the board. Some days I'll be using the computer. I'll mix it up. Sometimes I'm going to do both. So I apologize if you were like today. If you're just watching these things and thinking that all the notes are going to be on there, no. Sorry. Okay. So I have a machine in my office. Okay, it's called an EEG. It's called an epoch emotive technically, but it's an EEG. It measures brain waves. Brain waves look like this. We'll plug somebody into it next week. That's a brain wave. When you're nice and relaxed and calm, they're doing this. When you move around, they do this. When you fall asleep, they do this. Okay? And there's all sorts of different types of brain waves. Of course, this is not really science, not to scale, but you kind of get the idea. So, a really interesting book that I read. Well, it started out as an interesting book, then it turned all stupid, so I stopped reading. But the first part was good. It's called In Search of Mind. And it's written back in the 1970s or early 80s about a physician who was I'm going to write this over on this part, who was a neuroscientist. What do neuroscientists study? Yeah. Neuroscience is the study of the brain. Neuroscientists are not psychologists. They don't study psychology. They study the brain. They don't necessarily care about how you think and feel. They want to know how the brain works. It's a different perspective. Okay? So brain is neuroscience, not necessarily psychology. Anyway, so young lady, mom, 2 kids, husband, house, dog. I don't want to say dog, I made that part up. Whatever. But she gets in a car crash, major head injury. She's lying there in what's called a persistent vegetative state. Persistent vegetative state is... Okay. Does she respond to anything? How do they know if you're actually alive or not when they drag you into the hospital? You always see this in the shows. Yeah, you got a heartbeat? Check. That's always check heartbeat first. No heartbeat, start CPR and hope someone else comes by and tells you to stop. Anyway, but second thing they do is, if there's no heartbeat, they open your eyes and they see if your pupils respond to light. If the pupils aren't reacting to changes in light, you're probably not going to make it. But if your pupils are responding, that means that your reflexes are working, which means you might as well try for a little while. Okay? So this young lady had full-on reflexes. If you touched her cheek, she would smile. That's a reflex, so you can do that to sleeping people. Let's get permission first, otherwise you just that creepy guy in the airplane. Try this sometimes, tickle somebody. Babies are really fun to do this with. You tickle their cheek and they go, hey. Okay, get permission from the parents before you mess with babies. Anyway, get away, you old man. Sorry, I'm a baby. Okay, so the young lady's out, gone, full reflexes, but no consciousness, no response to any stimuli whatsoever because of her brain injury. The family's like, 2 months later, the family's like, we'll just pull the plug on this thing. She's not responding, she's not getting better, she's becoming less and less responsive to stimuli. We'll just stop feeding her, stop the water, and she'll die in a day or so. So there's something called a beating heart cadaver. Anybody heard of this before? If you have a little organ donor sticker on your driver's license, that means that as soon as you're like dead, there's a bunch of people with buckets standing by. Everybody watch Grey's Anatomy? Oh, we got a young Marine that just died in a motorcycle crash. And somebody goes, is his liver okay? And they run over with a bucket and take his liver and then fly it off somewhere. A good doctor, they fill it with Slurpee so it doesn't. Come on, watch more TV. Okay, I've only watched 3 episodes of that show. Because it's like this, and it's annoying, and I don't like it. Sorry. You have no idea what I'm talking about, watch TV. Okay, so, lady's dead, all the organ donor people are lining up going, she's got a lot of good parts in there. The neuroscientist comes by and says, can I play with it before it dies? And they're like, sure, go ahead. So they glued some electrodes on her head. You glue them on. I've got a bunch in my office. You can glue on your head. And then so she's watching the brain, and the brain looks like this. What we call a persistent vegetative state. There's very, very little brain activity, just kind of keeping the physiology alive. So they propped her eyes open. They put little stilts on their eyes and prop them open. And then they showed a picture to her of a house, a picture of a tree, a picture of the Grand Canyon, and a bunch of pictures to her, and her brain is doing this. Then they showed a picture of her husband, and her brain went, just for about 200 milliseconds, just a little blurb. This is what's called an event-related potential. Whenever you are looking for something and you see it, your brain goes, ooh, and produces one of these. Okay? So like if you're looking, like I was looking for this little dongle in my bag. So as soon as I see anything with a USB port on it, my brain goes, ooh, and I grab it. And I picked up the same freaking USB thing like 4 times. Because every time I saw the end of the USB, what did my brain do? ERP. It's called an ERP. So your brain goes ERP. Okay, event-related potential. Anyway, so immediately the researcher goes, she's in there. Because what did her brain do? Responded to a known stimuli. Did it respond to the trees and everything else that she was showing pictures of? No. Okay, so then what's happened is then they showed a bunch of other pictures of different people, and then they showed a picture of her kid, and then so other people, kid. Then they showed a picture of her house, where the house that she owned, and her brain did this again, and then they put this on the screen. The words, your house. And her brain went, like, ah! Because could she actually produce behavior? She was in a coma. You got there's 2 up here. You have to, oh, there's one over there? Yeah, you have to do the kind of shuffle walk. Excuse me, pardon me. Yeah. Okay, so when they wrote the word your house on the screen, these are in the 70s, so they're using like slides. And they wrote it on with a Sharpie on the slide, and put it in the slide projector, projected it on the thing, and all of a sudden, her brain went crazy. Why did her brain go nuts? She's talking to the researchers. How is she talking to the researchers? They're listening to her brain activity, and she's able to respond by thinking. They don't know what she's thinking. They just can see that her brain goes from less active to more active. Not great behavior, but brain behavior. So this is actually what's really cool. This is a long time ago. When they do this constantly now. When someone gets in a persistent vegetative state, they immediately throw electrodes on them and do a bunch of tests with different sounds to see if their brain is responding. What if their brain doesn't respond to anything? They're considered brain dead. If you watch watch the Grey's Anatomy shows, they glue the electrodes on her. She's done. There's one episode, every season, one of the doctors has some near fatal injury and almost dies, and then they resurrect them miraculously at the end. And one of the ones you could actually hear the person's voice in it saying, "Oh, my head hurts. Leave me alone. I'm still here. Just let me sleep." So she had been in there the whole time, listening to all the conversations. What was missing? Behavior. But she was there. Okay, so the idea of what a neuroscientist does, and what a neuroscientist likes to do, is they study the brain, and then there are what we call cognitive neuroscientists. Cognitive neuroscience is what UCSD calls psychology. Because that's what you study. You study the brain and behavior. So far, so good? Okay, so I have another funny, this goes with the EEG that I have. So this is Arthur. Arthur was using the brain scanner. He's in my physio class 2 semesters ago. And he's sitting in front of class, and we have his brain up on the screen, and it's making a little noise. And all of a sudden, it goes like this. I'm not talking, we're not doing anything, And I'm just getting all the electrodes wired in. And all of a sudden his brain does this. And everybody, and I'm like, I point to it so everybody in the class can see it. And they're all, could you see a change in the brain? Yes. When we plug one of you in, you'll be able to see the changes in your brain. And it's really cool. Between eyes open and eyes closed, the amount of the activity changes because of the sensations coming in. It's really neat. So all of a sudden he does this. So I go, dude, are you like really tired or something? He goes, no, I feel fine. And then I jokingly asked, did you have any drugs this morning? He, no. Turns out he had. Not to out Arthur's drug use, but so Arthur had done the wake and bake college method. Please don't do that. It's not good for you. That's the dad speaking. But what happened is the little THC molecule, the cannabinoid, locked into a receptor and caused his brain to go fade. About maybe a second, 1,000. Then it was back. And it's back. It's fly. Okay, so what happens is this THC molecule locked into one of the neurons somewhere in his consciousness, and you could literally see measured changes when his consciousness went for just a split second. Now, the funny or the ironic part about this whole thing is that he denied it, but everybody could see that something was going on with his brain. He didn't fess up until later to one of the other students, because I was like, man, there's something, this is weird, never seen this before. And he goes, yeah, I may have been under the influence of THC. I'm like, well, thank you. At least you volunteered, so we all got to see it. Usually I record the screen while people are doing the EEG, and I didn't record Arthur that day, and I wish I had, because that would have been awesome. Okay, but, so the nice thing about the brain, the behavior of the brain, is I can see whether you're conscious or unconscious. I know what marijuana looks like now when they do the brain scan. Okay, so I can see if you've been eating those gummy bears in the morning. You don't stink as much when you go to school. Okay, so the second part is that as you are trying to study the brain, is this really what you're thinking now? Well, it's not noise. Everything that happens in your brain happens for a reason. Your whole brain is being used all the time, constantly, to be doing whatever you're doing. People say you only use a small percentage of your brain. If you don't use it, what happens to it? It atrophies or gets used for something else. There's a lot of really interesting things when you talk about the brain where someone loses a limb. Colleen, one of my students a couple years ago, had her arm removed because she had melanoma. And she still felt her hand. But did she have a hand to feel? So why would she still feel it? But right there, actually. Because her brain was using those neurons for something else. But other parts of her brain didn't know that her brain was using those neurons for something else. So when that brain became activated, her hand felt something, felt tingling on her hand because it was being felt here. Cool stuff. Okay, so now we have to understand why do we have psychology? What do we do with it? So what? It's a study of the mental processes and behavior. Who cares? Why do we do it? What do you think? Okay, one of the things that we try to do in psychology is try to understand. Okay. To understand. Who cares if you understand something? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put this up here because that's literally what comes next. The reason why we try to understand mental processes and behaviors is because psychology is a helping field. Most people in psychology work in the helping field. We try to People don't like this idea of controlling behavior, but if you say helping, that sounds like you're controlling it to make a good thing. However, a lot of psychologists, you can get a job what's called cognitive engineering. Cognitive engineering. Cognition means thought. So a lot of people that run Facebook and run Google and run all the other social media platforms that you tend to drift around and use are used social engineering. Why do you think Snapchat added the stupid filters? It's more fun. And because it's more fun, people are more likely to log in every day to see what their filter is. People are more likely to log in today to keep their streaks alive. Yeah.
Yeah, I read an article on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they explained about how the algorithm around what elicits the most response from people. And
That's the evil side of psychology. Woohoo!
what it turned out was that it was anger on Facebook that elicits the most actual comments.
AKA trolls. Yeah. That's what I mean. The Russians know this very well. So actually, the Chinese are probably doing it more than the Russians, but we like to yell at the Russians because. Anyway, but it's internet trolls. I think they're just a giant herd of middle school children somewhere. You can just see them all like in the computer lab in some elementary or middle school, just trolling things, just causing problems on the internet. That's what middle school kids do. You can bring cigarettes in their pockets. Work for days. Okay, so. From my son's school now, oh, that was an 8th grader. They're not really doing anything now. Yeah. Got any Pokemon cards? I got Pokemon cards. Okay, cool. And I'm like, dude, you got a new ball? Yeah, I broke mine. Oh well. So, the fault ring goes boring. Okay, so the idea of the psychology is a helping field. We try to understand behavior. We try to understand cognition so we can help. Okay, and one of the best things about understanding isn't necessarily for other people. I'm going to write this word up here. I was supposed to change colors, but it didn't change. Now it's 3D. And irritating. Okay, so we understand this word called self. A lot of psychologists, and what we'll learn this semester, is we do not try to understand for us as the psychologist. Who do we try to understand for? The patient. Once the patient starts to understand things, they stop thinking about it. They'll pick on volleyball. Okay? But once, it's like watching my son play volleyball is just painful. He's on a little development league and I mean, like, they're sitting there going, rah! Every time they hit the ball, and it's like hitting the ceiling every single time. Because what don't they get? Just relax, put the platform where you want it to go. I suck at volleyball. Even though Cody and I beat Ella and my wife. Yeah, so here, my daughter's boyfriend challenged my wife, who's a good volleyball player, and my daughter, who's a good volleyball player, to play a match. It's the Grossmark Tennis Court. Cody and I won. I was like diving everywhere. It's so much fun to play in the sand. I was so sore the next day. Okay, I think my shoulders still hurt. Okay, moving on. So, but yet once you understand, that helps. It doesn't fix anything, but it helps. But okay, so what else is psychology good for? What else can we do? I'm just going to write it up here so we don't. So, a lot of psychologists try to describe thoughts. This is actually where a lot of the research is, describing. That's what we're going to do the second part of about 15 minutes here. We're going to try to describe this nature of the mind, and then we also try to explain and predict what this thing called the mind is. So when I look at these basic things, this is what psychology is. It used to be all about a guy named Mesmer. Maybe you heard the term mesmerized? When you're distracted, you're like kind of hypnotized by something. A lot of the original psychologists were like stage show people. You know, have anybody been to one of those big stage hypnotist people? They've been around since the mid-1800s. With this guy named Mesmer who figured out how to hypnotize people, and he would go and like steal people's souls. People still do that. Is it real? Yeah. Yes. Quick denial. Bad defense mechanism. About a third of people are susceptible to hypnotism, can be hypnotized. And so you take a very large audience, you do a couple little engagement activities for people that are susceptible fall for the engagement activities. You bring them backstage, you take all the third of the population that you have, you whittle it down to 3 or 4 people that are highly susceptible, and then you can make them dance like kittens on stage. It works. It also works for smoking cessation and fear abatement for that small percentage of the population that's susceptible to it. Just if you're still smoking and afraid of stuff. So, okay. But again, let's talk about this idea of what the theory of mind is. Okay? Let's talk about this idea of what the theory of mind is. How does this fit with what psychology is? Psychology is a scientific study of the mind. I'm going to write one big word up here in sparkly rainbow. I'm going to change the size of it to make it even more impressive. Half the letters don't really show up well on the dark screen. Sorry. What's this word? You have to say it sparkly rainbow. Okay, cool. I don't know how to speak sparkly rainbow. So, but it's perspective. Your mind is perspective. This is one idea of what the mind is. How many other minds are there? From your perspective, there's only one. Yours. How do we know other minds exist? But we assume they exist because in our consciousness we perceive them to exist. Has anybody ever fallen for one of the robocalls? Hi. Oh, sorry, my headset fell off. Hi. And you start talking to them, and then you realize it's a big box. There's nothing wrong with your credit card account. Just please call account services now. This is your last warning. You're going to get a lower rate on your card. Shut up! Click. The Google's working really hard to try to block robocalls at the same time they're selling phone numbers in order to send robocalls. Depending who makes more money. Okay, but the idea is that, does my phone have a perspective? Is it listening to whatever I'm doing? All right, I'm going to unlock it and then I can turn the volume up. Usually I have the volume turned off. Okay. Hey Google, are you listening to everything that I'm saying?
I only have this one ear.
Hey Google, can you hear all the words that I say?
Here's a matching video.
So, if I say, hey Alexa, or hey Siri, how come it doesn't respond? Did it go up? Ah. How come it doesn't go off? It's always listening. Hey Siri, what's the airspeed velocity of a European swallow? Okay Google, what's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
About 24 miles per hour, 39 km/h, but significantly slower when carrying coconut shells.
The world's awesome. Okay, but is it always listening to me? Yes. And I'd love to set up a scientific experiment to try and prove this, but my son and I were talking about the new Supra, the new Celica. He really likes those cars. Basically a BMW with a Toyota skin on it. Whatever. Okay? But we were talking about it in the car because we saw one drive by on the freeway. So we talked about it for about 20 minutes. And when I got home, I opened Instagram. I don't follow tuner cars. The third thing down on my feed was an ad for the Supra. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, yeah, so the cybernetic aspect of this, but what happens is that Facebook pays attention to your mind, not literally reading your thoughts, unless Facebook sells this little thing that says, here, stick this on your forehead, don't worry about it. Because they actually do make electrodes that are about as big as a postage stamp, and you can actually apply them to various parts in your head. They just adhere there, and they wirelessly transmit to your phone, and you can produce you can read your brain activity on your phone. Very cool. They cost about 20 grand. The one that I have costs $800. So the one I have is a little bit more intrusive, and your hair gets wet because you need saline to make it connect. But it's easy to get it to connect, to read your thoughts in your brain. But they have to, you can't just project. But what they do is as you are scrolling and you pause for a second on something, do they pay attention to that? Yes. And so maybe I paid attention to something, or somebody I liked paid attention. My son, I follow him, was looking at Supras. And so there might be some analytics going on. In China, they have a lot of facial recognition software. And their cameras are everywhere. And what's interesting is that there's this thing on the radio about some colleges will track students. So they pay attention to when you log in and where you log in on campus, and they know where you are on campus. Our IT department's not that cool. We can't stalk nearly as well. We're working on it. Anyway, no. But the idea is that by the more they get to know you, they know your perspective. When something new comes out, they're likely to push something that you might like toward it. Or they have ads on the side that you might not even notice. But if you stop for a second and pause at that ad, even though you don't consciously notice it, does Facebook notice that you noticed it? Then they put it through. That's the cognitive engineers. So the idea of trying to study this is very hard, because is perspective real? Does it exist? In your perspective. This is why we can't hang with chemistry and biology and the cool sciences. We have to hang with, well, we don't hang with philosophy. We kicked history and philosophy out of our department. But we hang with social and political science and anthropology. They're at least cool. No, economics. No, we kick those to business. They keep talking about money. We're socialists now. Okay, so the idea of this trying to study perspective, one of the ways to study this is look at baby brains. Okay, let me escape that. Oh, there's a careful there. Wait for it. Awesome. Okay. Not that, not that, not that. Is it that one? Oh, I love this one.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
So whenever we have his Bob the Builder helmet on, he becomes Danger Baby. And we sing the Mission Impossible theme and do stupid things. He hasn't quite embraced Danger Baby. Okay.
Okay, Caleb. You ready? You like those keys, huh?
This is Evil Psychologist Dad, step 1. 8-month-old baby. Give him keys. Why do babies like keys? They make sounds. They can chew on them and they taste funny and they're pokey. Okay? Yeah. Okay? But also, they seem to be a very high value. The parents always want their keys. Therefore, they get lots of attention by playing with keys. You give them a keychain that's full of old keys, they don't want it. They want your keys. You notice this? Then that's because they understand, they can see your perspective. If you take developmental psych, there's a bunch of really cool videos of little kids watching their parents and then learning what their parents like and dislike. Little guys, like this age. These little guys have a really interesting perspective. They have a now. They know what they know now. They also have a past. They remember. How do I know he remembers?
Look. Here they are. Look.
Happy baby.
Okay, ready? Watch this. There they are.
So all I do is I take a blanket and put it on top of the keys. He watches me put the blanket on top of the keys. But all of a sudden, what doesn't he have? Keys. And he's sad. So what's missing? He remembers the keys because he wants them. He doesn't have them, he's sad. When he's happy, he has them. He's now. He understands now. He understands then. What's missing? What? That's right now. He's there. Future. He doesn't have a future. Yeah, it's pretty true. But as Morgan. So if he had a future, what could he do?
Look.
Does he have enough motor skills to move?
One more try. Ready?
Oh yeah.
Here are the keys.
I got this game, Dad. I got this.
Here are the keys.
I got this. Wait. Stop.
I don't think you have object permanence yet.
Oh. My son's crap all over my YouTube. Okay. What is that one? That's proposal for her. Okay. So, what's interesting is that by doing these stupid little tests with your kids, and you can try this if you have an 8-month-old, because at some point after 8 months, somewhere right around 9 months, every kid's a little different. You put the keys, you put the blanket over, they look at you like, yeah, are you stupid? And it's so funny how the switch. I could do this 10 times a day with him when he's 8 months old, and he never gets it. Then one morning he wakes up and looks over and goes, really? That morning they wake up and do that is the morning that they fall out of the crib. Anybody have little people or watching them? They just get up. One morning they get up and you're standing by the side of your bed or crawling over the inside your bed. Hi! They have object permanence. Because they don't just wait. I'm cold. Oh well. They look around and grab a blanket and throw over themselves. Or they get up and climb out of the crib. But don't put them on top of the crib. Because of the cage. It's not necessarily good for your kid. Anyway, but again, this is a way of looking at perspective. It's a very simple, basic cognitive way of looking at perspective. So now, what about this? Once the child learns past, now, next, then they have to pay attention to others. This is the theory of mind. We assume that other people have minds. We assume that other people have a now, a past, and a next. We assume that other people have a different perspective. So watch my brilliant son.
No, I'm not taking a picture, buddy. Don't just stare at the camera. Okay. No, look, I have a question for you.
for it. Okay. I am giving him a box of crayons. There's a box of crayons. I could get all the colors out and color them in, but I'm not going to. Here's a box of crayons. So if I ask you what's in the box, what do you say? Why would you say that? It's a box of crayons. In your past, every time a box of crayons was given to you, what's in it? Crayons. So you're like, all right, I got this. This is good. So I ask you, okay, so then, oh, watch. See if he figures this out.
Taking a picture, buddy. Don't just stare at the camera. Okay. Now look, I have a question for you. In my pocket, what is in this box?
Crayons?
You think so? Okay. I want you to open it and look inside. What's it? What's in the box?
Popsicle sticks.
Popsicle sticks. Okay.
If you don't speak 3-year-olds, they tend to breathe in and out as they're talking. So, and it's just, okay. But, so popsicle sticks, right? Okay, so now we're going to do a test of his mind. Somewhere between the ages of 3 and 5, what they know now, okay, becomes different than what they knew then. So we're upping the consciousness level. So the baby knows what he knows right now. I cover the keys with the blanket. He can't go, oh, I can move the blanket and get the keys, because he only knows what he knows now. The keys aren't here. Crap. Keys are here, keys are not here. Keys are here, that's why peekaboo is so much fun with little kids. Peekaboo for a 3-year-old, though, you're going to be entertaining. Still entertaining for the parents, but the kid's like, dude, seriously, get out of the way. I don't want to see you. Okay. So now, I'm going to ask him a very simple question. What did you think was in the box? Well, if everybody in here who has minds says, oh, if I thought there were crayons before, I think now thought and think are different things. Most 3-year-olds, though, what do you think is in the box? Crayons. What is in the box? Popsicle sticks. What did you think was in the box? Popsicle sticks. Because what they think is what they've always thought. Anybody's ever tried to put shoes on a 3-year-old? No, I can do it myself. No, you can't. Yes, I can. And as soon as they think they can, they get frustrated when they can't, because as soon as they think they can, they don't know that they didn't know that they could. Then they can't, and then they get upset. Cry. Always cry. Throw them on. Wrong feet, like that. Okay, so it's just, oh, it just pisses me off with the Crocs on the wrong feet, especially when you're over 16. Just don't. Okay.
Okay. So Caleb, what did you think was in the box?
Watch his mouth.
Crayons.
Right. Now,
He is a very brilliant 3-year-old. A lot of 3-year-olds can't answer it this way. Okay? But why did he start to think popsicle sticks? You could see his mouth going, crayons. As a younger child, because he has my wonderful daughter as a sibling, he grows mind faster. Because what does he have to deal with all the time? His older sister. Subsequent children develop mind faster. Some kids as young as 2 figure out, if they're raised by lots of siblings, they understand different perspectives way faster. That's why us younger kids are better than older kids. Single kid? Screwed. Okay.
if mommy were to see this box, what would she think is in there?
Popsicle.
You think
Smug, if mommy were to see this box of crayons, what would she think is in it? She'd think there's popsicles. Yep. No doubt, no question, whatever. Does he understand other minds yet? Because whatever he knows, everybody else must know. This works?
she would think there's popsicle sticks in there? Why don't you bring it over to mommy and ask her? See if she can
Watch
ask
his
her
mind
what's
get blown.
inside the box.
What's in that box?
Crayons.
What? Caleb, is she right?
Hold on. Okay, so even though we didn't stage this, I did this with all of both of our children and a lot of the neighbor kids. And I did the same thing, and I got a lot of random answers. Like, one of the kids said, "What do you think is in there?" He goes, "Blankets." So, if you do this with enough kids, you get this same basic thing. But 5-year-olds, if you ask a 5-year-old, what would mom think is in there? They're like, she thinks they're crayons. It's just a box of crayons. And they look at you like you're an idiot when you give them this test. Why are 5-year-olds much better at school than a 4-year-old? Their minds are growing. What's interesting is that there's actually a part of your brain that creates this ability to find other minds. So the right temporal parietal junction. Okay? And it's the part of your brain, I'll send home a video for you guys to watch about it. It's a part of your brain that literally makes you think about how other people are thinking. People on the spectrum of autism don't activate this part of the brain without training. They can't think about how other people are thinking without training. Most of us just learn it naturally. My friend's son Shelby he's on the spectrum of autism, and he makes costumes. Like he's a theater major and movie major, but he does costume design. And what's interesting is that he makes these world costumes and he sells them all over the place on YouTube. One of them was the Germany history costume, and it has all the German history on it, including swastika stuff, because our German history. So he was trying it out to film his video, so he's walking, goose-stepping down the street in front of their house. Because they happen to have a German Shepherd. They board dogs as a partial business. And so she has a German Shepherd. She's like, sorry, he transitioned from she to he, and every time I screw up his gender, I have to put 25 cents in the jar. Stubborn. Used to be she up until 18, then transitioned to he. And now is dating another transitional, he's gay, transgender, I don't understand anymore. He's dating Anne, who's also a female-to-male transsexual. We have a Venn diagram at home to explain it to the kids. That's why I love the gender term queer. Just let it go. It just doesn't matter. Anyway, so he's goose-stepping down the street in front of his house with his friend filming him to put this on YouTube with the German Shepherd. He lives in Del Cerro. Why is that funny? Jewish community. Which makes it even worse. And as soon as, if you know, they've lived there for their whole lives, they know it's a strong Jewish community. Because no, it's a period correct costume. We're just doing this for the ad. And you're like, can you see something maybe offensive about this? Just maybe. He's like, no. What? I don't see a problem. That's part of his disorder. Part of his disorder is he cannot understand why someone would be upset by this. What about the whole history? Well, I wasn't killing anybody. Because he can only think in concrete, literal terms, he has a really hard time dealing with other people's minds. But in his defense, he makes the costumes he makes are so freaking cool because he is obsessive about details. And so he's really good at what he does. He just needs someone who's a little bit more socially conscious to pay attention to things that he's doing. And his friend is also probably on the spectrum as well and doesn't seem to get it either. But also a very good costume designer. He works for Disney as a costume designer. So, let him ride. Okay. So, getting back to this, the main point of this whole thing. So I want to see if you have a different perspective. Okay? So I want to see if you have a different perspective. So I want to put up a word on the board here. I'm going to pause the recording.